association with culture for almost 2 years. And within these 2 years, a number of my research has also been substantially relevant to culture. So in my first class, I usually ask my students to write down a few words that comes to their mind when talking about culture. Many of them would start to think about food, then they would move on to festivals or demographics. Some of them would think about the art of all kinds, and they may even go further to education or economics, or language, or what we have inherited from our ancient time, or it can also be a political culture. Language, and in the end, many would land their thought on various aspects of religion. These are the 2 slides that I show the responses from my most 2 recent classes. As you can see, the first one and the second one. They are rather consistent in a way. So, have you ever wondered why people in different regions or countries around the world would respond unconsciously to the same situation differently? According to Howard Gardner, in his book called Culture Theory, Essays of Mind, Self, and Emotion, he described 3 realms of culture. The first is physical world, which is the world of materials, natural objects, and living things. The second is the world of man-made artifacts. That means artworks, tools, or other less tangible ideas. The third is the world of social life. That is social world, meaning people, family, or one's community. This is the aspect of culture. It tells us factors affecting our beliefs and values. What you see there is the observable part is only at the tip of the iceberg. There's actually a large, huge portion unobservable underneath. And when talking about culture, people tend to restrict their mind to the observable elements. How would you describe this? I think many of you would start to draw the relationship among these 3 images. There's a book called The Geography of Thought, written by Richard Nisbet. The book elaborates and compares 2 different types of thinking. Eastern thinking, the data was collected from young people in Korea, Japan, and China. Western thinking, on the other hand, the participants were from the US, UK, and Canada. Let's see some examples. Does the middle flower belong to group A or B? In Eastern thinking, people would say A seems to have more round petals. So I think the middle flower should go to A. Western thinking, on the other hand, wait a minute, I see inconsistency here. And I think B is more consistent because they all have the straight stalks. That is from the research, okay, the majority of people. Another example, where does the middle object belong? Western thinking, they would choose cylinder, the blue one. That is the primacy of shape over substance. You all like high tea, afternoon tea very cold, and so do I. Even the way we show our hospitality could be different. In the Western way, when offering tea, they would say, some more tea. On the other hand, in the Eastern way, people would say, drink some more, 多喝一点嘛. So that is the emphasis on object or action. These are the paintings of 3 famous emperors during Qing dynasty, from Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th emperors. Qing dynasty is the last imperial dynasty of China. You can see that from the painting, it's the whole body painting. On top of that, 3 of them present quite similar expression in a way. These are 3 Western portraits of Mona Lisa, Van Gogh, and Jean Coubertin. I believe that many of you are more familiar with the first 2. The last one was painted by Modigliani, the Italian artist who in the end moved to Paris in 1906. That was the painting of his own partner. Modigliani is famous with his image of distortion and exaggeration, his style. You can see the oval face, long nose, just like African mask-like face. And what I want to tell you here is all of them, they focus on facial expression. This is even more obvious. This is the painting called Along the River during the Qingming Festival. It shows a panoramic view of life along the river. It is a 5-meter-long scroll painting. The first version was painted in Song Dynasty. It is currently placed at the National Palace Museum in Beijing. It depicts Song Dynasty capital during the Qingming Festival. Many people say it's China's Mona Lisa. There's another version, the third version, was painted in Qing Dynasty, and it is kept at Taiwan National Palace Museum. What I want to draw your attention to is the bridge on the top there. This is another bridge, the closed-up Japanese bridge with water lilies, painted by Claude Monet in Impressionist period. You may have seen a dozen of the same image in different versions. That is because Monet painted this view in different weather and light conditions. According to the group project, the world has been divided into 10 cultural clusters based on common languages, geographic location, religion, and historical accounts. What we are going to look closely into today is this cluster, Confucian Asia. Before getting into that, there are 2 major approaches of learning culture, ethic and epic. Ethic approach is about variability to examine behavior patterns of one culture and compare it across culture. On the other hand, ethnic approach, it concerns idiosyncratic components of a specific culture to describe the underlying values of that particular culture. Ethic approach is perhaps the one that you are more familiar in your management or organizational behavior courses. There are those dimensions described by Hofstede, Trompenas, the two Dutch researchers, or the group project, such as collectivism, power distance, specific or diffuse culture, achievement and ascription, synchronous or sequential time perspective, or short or long-term future orientation. But today, we are going to impose the ethnic approach to unpack the mystery of culture through cultural metaphors. The idea is that culture is a silent language. Using metaphors is the way to really understand the underlying beliefs and values of that particular society. The first one, Japanese garden as Japanese cultural metaphor. Stone, plants, water, shrub means harmony and oneness in Japanese society. The Japanese garden serves as a reminder of the centrality of nature to the development of Japanese society and the way in which Japanese perceive themselves as integrated. This is rather different from the Western view of culture, which is something to be confronted. If you put that into a black and white diagram, this is perhaps how it looks. A hierarchical society, assuming everyone has a defined role with obligations. Taoism plays an important role in Japanese value system. You may have seen this symbol, yin-yang symbol, representing the complementary notion of beliefs and values. That being said, there is no clear dichotomy. But rather concepts and values. Thank you. But there's no clear dichotomy. But rather, the concepts and values are relevant to mind and its paradox. So when it comes to seeing themselves when things go wrong, Japanese people would perceive it as a shame rather than a guilt. Thank you. Like water flowing through the garden, Japanese society is fluid, changing, yet retaining its essential character. Each droplet produces to form a waterfall that flows into the pond filled with car. The car represents Japanese loyalty and identity within the group. If you look into Japanese history, from Meiji Restoration, Sino-Japanese War, colonization of Korean Taiwan, to the attacks of Pearl Harbor, it's undeniable that Japanese possess a hidden persistence and aggressiveness. This is similar to when you throw the food into the pond. Those carps would rush over harshly to catch their food. The Great Wall as Chinese cultural metaphor. Great Wall shows patience, hard work, a long-term horizon, and a systemic approach integrating major cities and regions. The wall was built in Qin Dynasty, extended further in Han, and completed itself with the current length of 7,200 kilometers in Ming Dynasty. Throughout a long and complex history, extending over 1,000 years, the wall has preserved Chinese culture. Reflecting upon the current trade war that we are all concerned about, while Trump is imposing the tariff aiming to improve the US trade deficit. Of course, Xi resists, but at the same time, he's working on his dream, his Belt and Road initiatives, aspiring to link China across the world. In sociology and management, there has been a number of studies trying to understand the Chinese complex thought. Tony Fung is one of the examples, a scholar in Stockholm. He conducted research and he proposed 3 unique blends of Chinese negotiation that comprise nationalism, sincerity, and strategy. Another Taiwanese scholar, Huang, wrote in his famous paper, Faith and Favor, the Chinese power game. In his paper, he talked about 3 distinctive concepts: Bao, Renqi, Guanxi, and Mianzi. Kimchi as Korean cultural metaphor. We've seen kimchi in Korea as much as or even more than you see hamburger in the United States. Historically, Korea suffered from a long period of occupation and war, from British occupation in 1860 all the way to Japanese colonization until the end of the Second World War. On top of that, Korea is a country with limited natural resources. The long winter made growing vegetables very difficult. Therefore, family would gather in the fall, harvesting their crops and preserving them in salt water. They then would bury kimchi underground to protect it from foreign soldiers until the family was ready to eat. So the history of kimchi serves to highlight Korean collectivism and perseverance. This is the flag, Korean flag. You can see its meaning, harmony, unity in 4 seasons, and the complementary notion of yin and yang. So how do we see the world? The Eastern world is the world, the big field with interconnected elements. For the Western, the world is the collection of individual objects. This is perhaps why we learned about animal classification, invented by the Western scientists. Now, let's get back to these three images. Would you draw relationship across three images, or would you categorize them? We live in, or aspire to live in, a harmonious world. So, Eastern students should learn the Western perspective. And likewise, Western students should learn the Eastern perspective. My ending, culture matters. Thank
you. Economics and happiness. Why should we talk about this? Let me start with the Declaration of Independence in the United States. Actually, this is the Constitution of the United States. This is the document by which the, let's say, most free, the country of the freedom established. And the first sentence says that there are some rights which are inevitable. Everybody understands that these rights should be protected for everyone. Rights of life, to be alive, to be a life, a right of liberty, to be free, and right to pursue happiness. So happiness is so important that these fathers of this great nation, they thought that it's so important in our life that they put this in the beginning of their country. They put together with the liberty and freedom. Nowadays, we talk about freedom. There are research studies about this. There are universities about this. There are a lot of studies about the life, how to keep the life, and to improve our life. But happiness is somehow not so serious. People think about happiness like something supplementary. My idea is that happiness actually should be put in the middle of our problems and in the middle of our goals. My motivation to think about this starts from my job. I teach finance, and my dream is my students to become good professionals. Good professionals for finance guys means that to find good job in some financial districts. Actually, the best place to work for financial especially Wall Street, Canary Wharf in London, Marunouchi in Tokyo. And that means that everybody, really everybody of us, we want to find good and well-paid job. And usually I visit these places. This is my last visit to Marunouchi in Tokyo. I spent at least 1 hour just sitting there and observing people. And as you see in these pictures, I don't see happy people. This place is where the best paid people work. Actually, these people are the best paid, if you see. They are alone. They sit alone and they have their lunch in their lunchbox. The same like old people, people that needed some help. So that means that in my mind I said, wow, okay, if we look for a job, we try to find a well-paid job, why when we find it, people still feel some emptiness? Another motivation to start this talk is about very strange paradox. Actually, about 15 years ago, the king of Bhutan started this talk. He found out that his people, actually his country was very poor at that time, still not very high economically, but they found that he found that his people are poor, but very happy. And when he compared his people with people in the West, he said, oh, my people are so happy. And that's why he started this idea and spread over the world. Even the United Nations started publishing an annual report for happiness of the nations. And everybody started talking about this, starting from this king. Good. I even plan to bring my students to visit Bhutan, to see happiness. You know, everybody, I'm so excited where happy people live. Recent report. This is a copy of the recent report of United Nations. As you see, Bhutanese people are not happy anymore. 15 years after they start this. What happened? Why this so? How come? They opened this issue for the world, and now they feel unhappy. So there must be some relation. We have to do something and to see why the happiness is so variety. We should not go to Bhutan. Think about Taiwanese. Actually, if you look the same report, Taiwanese nation is among the most happiest nations in Asia. Actually, the second one after Dubai. But when we walk down the streets, what we see? I don't see happy people. Why it is so? And that really stirs my curiosity to talk about this and to see what is the reason for that. What is the happiness? When we talk about happiness, usually people think about feelings. That's why some of researchers in the world, they don't support such idea to start talking about happiness, because this is feelings. Every one of us has different varieties of feelings. So this is about psychology and some small part of psychology. Actually not. The Professor Verhoeven, many years ago, already established the definition of happiness. And if we think about this definition, actually we talk about one person must be capable to evaluate his or her own life as a whole. It's not about momentum, not about the current situation and current feelings. It's about the value of your life. And my students know that whenever I mention value, that means, aha, it's finance now. It's my job now. Yeah, and although here we talk about different things, but yes, it's about the value of our life. And we have to find a way how to evaluate this value and how to increase this value. That's why many different research areas, management, economics, finance, neuroscience, psychology, chemistry, all these areas, we should take from all these areas the best results in order to achieve our idea, how to help people to be more happy. What is economics of happiness? If in a few minutes I have to present what is the idea, let's think about what is economics at all. When we talk about economics, the main idea of economics is with the limited resources to achieve the maximum results. And You already know that standard economics of different level has different goals. For example, on the level of the country, the goal of economics is to create more GDP. With limited resources, one country should create a higher GDP. And this we assume as success of this country. When we talk about the company, we know that with more resources, we have to create higher profit. This we assume that is successful company. For the family, if you get higher income, we assume that this is successful family. That's the standard thinking of economics. Now let's just imagine if we just substitute the main goal, the same processes, the same connections, but the main goal for the country, instead of pursuing a high level of GDP, to pursue gross national happiness. Instead of all economic resources of the country to be concentrated on this to increase GDP, if they are concentrated on this to increase the happiness of the people, what will be the result? Or for the company, imagine that instead of putting all our efforts for increasing profit, we increase the wealth, but genuine wealth. Or in the family, if we think about life satisfaction. This is the way how we can use economics, and everybody could understand that the result will be happier nations, higher productivity for the companies, and meaningful life for families and for individuals. My goal is somehow to influence countries, communities, companies, teams, families, individuals, to start changing their thinking about the goals. And let me give an example how we can do this. It is many times it's proven that this relationship between happiness of the nation and GDP. Yes, GDP matters. Somehow, GDP really, the richness of the country somehow increases happiness. And as you see, for the poor countries, we have higher increasing, but after some level of GDP, increasing of GDP, it doesn't influence such much happiness in the countries. And you can think about this, where your country is, and what is the practical result. First one, to know that this relationship exists and to accept it. One example for that I could give with Vietnam. 5 years ago, Vietnam was the third one, top third, among the top three for happiness, according to United Nations report. Now, Vietnam is very low. Why? Just because in the beginning, still it was poor, that relationship still with little increasing of income, happiness increases fast. Nowadays, even if the GDP increases very fast, the happiness now is stable. Another way how we can use this relationship, to analyze why our country is not according to the central relationship. There are some countries, like my country. Actually, this is another motivation. I skip this. My country is the most unhappy nation in Europe. It used to be even in the world. Now there are several more unhappy nations in my country than my country. And my country is far away from this relationship. And many researchers now they try to find the solution of this question, why it is so, why people are so unhappy. We have to find this to realize that according to our GDP, these people should be more happy. Why they are not? We have to find it. The same for cities in Taiwan. There are differences between the happiness among the citizens in different cities in Taiwan. And nobody can explain why it is so. So this really is an interesting question, why it is so. Another result of science. Many times they prove this, that relationship between happiness and wage, the age of the people is smile-like. That means young people, they're happy, of course. Middle-aged people, always they're less happy, and old people get more happy. Imagine that you're a manager. You should know this relationship, and you should apply this relationship in your management style. If you work with young people, you should know that soon they will go down. So you have to do some reforms in your attitude toward them in order to keep them happy. Another example, this is also very strange. Yes, money matters when we talk about the happiness, and it's proven that for Eastern Asia, is about 62,000 US dollars per year. Is the top, the salary you have to get, the income you have to get, in order to feel the top happy people in your country. If you increase your income, happiness starts decreasing. So, knowing this, which is your threshold for your country, for your region, you can manage situation, and you should know what to do if you're a manager, or if you look for a job, to know what kind of job to do, and so on. Another example. From psychological point of view, it's proven that voluntary work makes people happy. Usually managers don't know this. Usually managers, they, in order to make their people happy, and leaders of the teams, they try to give to their people something. But it's not only about giving. Actually, people also want to give. Just we have to involve this process in our work. If we talk about the company, in our team, if you have some goal to achieve. Another relationship, which is very proven, totally proven, it's about the relationship between education and happiness. If you know that increasing level of education increases your happiness of your people, you should know what to do according to the level you are. If you are mayor of one city, and if you want to increase the happiness of your people, of course, make them study. Support somehow their process of increasing their education. Another example, how can we use science for our increasing of our happiness? According to neuroscience, everybody knows that signals in our brain and from our brain to our body is moving along the neurons. But neurons, there is not only one, they're connected. But connection is very strange, that connection is not direct, they don't touch each other, neurons. And between every neuron there is some free space where chemicals are very important. For example, when your neural system must transfer some feeling, some exactly specific chemical should be activated in order to transmit this information from one neuron to another. And let me give an example. For example, this is very famous, oxytocin. This neurotransmitter, actually this chemical between two neurons, is important for transferring the feeling of loyalty and trust. So that means that if we miss, if there is a lack of this chemical in our body, we will miss this feeling of being loyal. Think about that. We work in the team, and loyalty is very important in this process. We should increase feeling of loyalty among the people. How? By increasing this chemical in our bodies. And psychologists already, and neuroscientists, they already found that just by keeping face-to-face relationship or close relationship, I mean hugging, or by creating feeling of situation of being part of a group, this increases oxytocin. So, if I'm a manager and I want to increase the level of happiness, because loyal people, they feel happy, actually, how can I do this? By stimulating face-to-face relationship. And let me give some examples how economics of happiness, what kind of results economics of happiness already brought. This person changed one country. If you know something about Bangladesh, you may know that this is a very poor country. More than half of the population is below the level of aid. Nobody, even people from outside, they even cannot understand how these people survive there. This guy said, no, I have to help to my people. I have to do something for my people. And they start this strange project, Bank Grameen. This bank started with microcrediting. They give, and they still work, they give very small amounts to some poor people. They found out that women in Bangladesh are very powerful, although they are, as in society, they are oppressed, but they are very powerful. They control their houses. They are responsible for their families, and because of this responsibility, they are loyal. So that means that if we give them money, you can be sure that they will pay back. That's why, without any collateral, without any documents, this bank gives, let's say, about $20, $200 for ladies. Nowadays, 8 million ladies, they are members of this bank, and they get a very small amount, but they change their life. The miracle achieved by this guy is they started with beggars. They contacted 200,000 beggars in Bangladesh, and they gave them $5 US, just $5 US. instead of begging, these people, they bought some products, and instead of begging, they become businessmen. So, result is that nowadays, Bangladesh is assumed that already normal country. Nobody feels pity about this country. Another example. Nowadays, because of globalization, culture of the small tribes is very hard to be protected, because people start buying foreign products, start following other type of culture, and identity is now national identity of these people is in many cases is already lost. There is one tribe high in the mountains in Ecuador called Otavalo. This tribe, they met together and they said, okay, how can we keep our identity? In order to increase our economic development, we have to invest, we have to produce something, but if we start this, we will become as other people, and we are going to lose our identity. So they thought and they decided what we are good in. Actually, they are good in weaving textile. Nowadays, they produce this type of textile. This place is very popular touristic place for Ecuador. Every tourist going to Ecuador goes to this market. They sell their products all over the world. Even British Army buys from them their textile for Scottish, these specific Scottish costumes. So they are now one of the richest people in Ecuador. But if you see them, they still dress like locals. They live in their traditional houses. They keep their traditions. So that means that economic growth can be achieved without losing ethnic identity, and they feel happy to be such specific people. And another example is Alberta, Canada. About 25 years ago, in Canada, in this province, in Canada, they start huge projects for oil production. Everybody knows that if such production starts, ecology is over, and local people they were afraid of this. That's why they met together. They created this theory of genuine wealth. They start working with petrol companies, and nowadays Alberta is the best province in Canada, best in ecological production, and actually the highest level of happiness. So, as you see, economics and happiness can give results, can change lives, and this is what we are on this earth, to change other people's life. Thank you.
Today, I'm going to share with you about some talking points regarding this topic. You shouldn't miss it. Why? Why it's only 5 instead of 6 or 10? Because these 5 key issues will have the impactful and powerful strategies to influence and make a change in the Taiwan services industry. So, as you can see, from the topic, it's mentioned services. I believe that many of us think about services as we have to be served by other people. But in services, in reality, we can't own the service. As mentioned here, service is provide benefits without ownership. We can receive the service provided by a service provider, but we can't take away the service from that moment. So when we talk about services, are the economic activities that performed by one party, which is the service provider, to another party, who are the customers. So the question is, when we talk about services, it's a relationship, means that it's an exchange. The customers put efforts, the time, and money in exchange for what they should get in return. For example, the labor service, skills, facilities provided, system use, and networks. So after listening, talk about the definitions of services. Now, we think about services, it could be changed from time to time. The reason is, it's delivered by human being and received by human being, and we are unique. It's impossible that we can have the same, exactly the same type of service or quality of service without any changes or any influences. Let's look at the hospitality services in Taiwan. And in 2018, Forbes magazine mentioned that Taiwan ranked second the worst friendliest countries reviewed. So what comes to your mind when you think about, wow, Taiwan is the second friendliest country? So they should have very good service quality. However, we should think about that service received by people from different backgrounds, different countries, different income, different education level. So even though we are friendly, but the people as a customer, when we receive the services, could be different. So that would be a thinking point for us. We have to continuously to think about how can we make a difference in our service delivery. And according in this study research, ranking, it's mentioned that friendly attitude towards experts is 86%. But in this study, it doesn't reveal that. What about from the locals' point of view, the Taiwanese point of view, about the friendly attitude? And let's look at another aspect of service quality. According to one of the popular magazine, it's called Global View, 远见. In this magazine, every year, they do have a survey study. The survey study is not merely asking the customers to fill out the satisfaction survey. In fact, they sent some of the mystery customers to visit all these companies and properties to find out, to review, to experience what kind of service that they received during their visitation. And these findings are very insightful. It's not only to help in terms of their ranking, but in fact also would help the service providers to think about what they should improve and do better. In this ranking, I would think that it would be more helpful if the details and findings will be shared with the service provider beyond than just showing the ranking. And in the findings, it's mentioned that hotels and the chain restaurants, they rank number 5 and 6 compared to other retail companies. That struck my mind because hotel and restaurant should be the sectors that offer the most service processes compared to, for example, home living and telecommunication companies and so on. Now, the question is, why hotels and restaurants in Taiwan only be at this level of service delivery? So how can that be better or even beyond than what they can do? And let's look at another point of view when we look at Taiwan as overall in service. Majority of the services companies in Taiwan, they achieve service 1.0. So what is called service 1.0? It means that the companies just deliver what the customer asks for. I just fulfill what you want. However, when you want to deliver a delightful service to your customer, we have to go beyond that. According to this study by the Global View magazine, they say that those companies who are at the top service companies, they do provide connection services. So what is called connection services? In here, they say that it's beyond fulfilling the customer needs. And how can they do so? It's by having the good observation skills, and even before the customer's telling you and showing their body language, you start seeing that what they want, and even they don't even aware as the customer of what they need. So that's a powerful of connection service. Furthermore, it's mentioned that this connection service will also offer customers with some compliments and comforts. Because customer coming to a restaurant and hotel, it's not merely paying the money in exchange for the physical comforts or peace. They also need some connection in terms of the personal relationships. And based on my research interviews, many managers, restaurant managers say that they enjoy their work even though they have long working hours, and also sometimes encounter some difficult customers and even challenge their dignity at work. However, what makes them to continue to work in this industry? Because they found that because of the relationship with the customers. And the most powerful impact by providing this connection service is they found that the customer, difficult customers, they can change them, turn them into a loyal customer, and even become their friends. So, now, when we talk about 5 key service key issues, I want to challenge all the audience here, and including the audience who will watch this video. Let's think about the key issues. I'm not here to feed the audience to tell you about my findings, but I would like to invite all of you, let's join this process, the journey, explore about to identify what are these 5 key issues. I believe that when we use different resources, we can make a better decision making and more insightful findings which lead to the outcomes and strategies to be implemented. And from there, we can conclude and finalize what are the 5 key issues in the hotel and restaurants. And at the end, in my topic, I said about innovative strategies. So I would like to invite you and join me to find out what are the innovative strategies, which I'm going to share with you what is called service innovation. In our routine life and at job, besides doing the routine task, it's very important we think out of the box. Thinking out of the box is not only merely just I wait and for instruction from my boss or from the customers to push me to think about to make a difference. Service innovation is from an inner motivation. Every day, every single moment, we can think something different. So how can we connect these key issues with the service innovation? We can examine in terms of different aspects of the services to improve the service concepts and the offerings. It can be as small as detailed as how we greet the customers and even how we deliver the food to our customers. So, and when we talk about service innovation, we can also adapt the ideas and the concepts from various industries, including the manufacturing industry. And one of the concepts I would like to share with you is the assembly line that we borrowed from the concept of manufacturing into our services industry. I'm not sure if the audience, you know about assembly line in a factory. In a factory, you will see the workers have at different stations, and they have a very specific job task. One person only put one nuts, and the other person maybe put on the wiring and so on. So in the services industry, we borrow the idea, adapt the idea into their services industry from the manufacturing industry. And from there, our service providers, the front-end employees, that can be more focused in delivery and enhance to maximize their productivity. So, when we talk about service innovation, we can look into the service processes and also think about customer processing. And recently, there's one of the service context issues that a lot of people talk about is the co-creation. How can we invite our customers to participate in this service delivery process? It's not only talking about I deliver you the service, but it's the process that we enjoy the service process. And we also can commercialize their service in terms of we educate our customers so that the customers, before they come into hotel or restaurants, they can start enjoying. At the same time, they have a better interaction with our service provider. So we call it as a win-win situation. Why? Because the service employees would always think that I'm only an offer, but in fact, they will think that I'm also a receiver because there are special, unique interaction between the service providers and the customers. And the last point when we talk about service innovations is called hybrid forms. I believe that most of us here, especially the young people, you can know about hybrid car. Am I right? So what is called hybrid car? It's a combination of using fuel and also using electricity. So how can we incorporate this idea into service? That's my challenge for you to think about that. So for my conclusion, when we talk about 5 key issues and service innovation strategies, especially in the hotels and restaurants in Taiwan, I would say that why I come up with this topic and who are suitable to involve in this topic are all of us as we are the customers. So we talk about practical innovation service improvements can't be achieved without understanding actual insights and employing localization of insights. Guess who says this? It's me. Okay? Because of my working experiences and my passion in service, I believe that there's no such way we can copy and imitate from any countries, from any companies, that we should have our own unique localization of service innovation in delivering the best services to our customers. That's all for my presentation.